So thank you, everybody. This is the official start of Thursday Travel. So warm welcome to everyone attending from our uh, country offices. We really thank you for turning off your videos. The protocol for today would be only turn it on when you speak because the bandwidth is rather low and Shital is having, our speaker in Addis is having problems with connection. So we're trying to give her as much bandwidth as we can. So we are traveling to Addis Ababa today, Ethiopia. Our champion and our connector are with us, Shital and Sumit. And so thank you very much. And of course, we have our own dear Mimi, who is here with us from Ethiopia, but based in DC. So many of us many of you have told us how enjoyable and informative the Thursday travels are, because the discussion actually two things. It helps you to meet people in the chapter if you are actually moving there, and it supports WBG's decentralization agenda. Because what we do is we give you the inside track, information that you cannot find in guides, because it is by the people who live there in real time. So as usual, I will hand over quickly to Vital and Sumit. And we would ask you that this is a discussion. So please unmute yourself if you have a question that you have for the Sumit and Shita. And then alternatively, you can put them in the chat box and I will be reading them out. Okay, so over to you, Shita. Tell us about life in Addis.
Everyone, I really appreciate that I speak and share, some of my experiences here. And I don't see Sumit though online yet. But in terms of life, I would say Ethiopia is a very nice country. Weather is it is between 20 to 22 degrees in Celsius. Here, there are 13 months in the country, and this is very different when we compare to the world. But like it should call it 13 months sunshine, and when we can mention it has different new year. So it has a different New Year and different Christmas than what we celebrate internationally. So New Year just went, it was September 11, and Christmas will be coming up in March. People here are very nice and friendly. However, language does play a role when we go out and about on day-to-day basis. It's like when you buy groceries, or when you are giving instructions to somebody, or dealing with local population on a day-on-day basis. It's good to know a little bit of Amharic, I would say, although not much, but few words here and there. International people here are called Firangis. And one has to be a little careful when walking around on streets, although it is very friendly city. There might be cases of pickpocketing, like it happens everywhere, all around the world. And there are few good shops for groceries and stuff. In general, I would say it is a great experience to be here in Ethiopia. Over.
So, what advice would you give for schooling if people were relocating with a family?
So, if somebody is relocating with a family, my advice would be like generally World Bank families, they do in their containers when they are relocating to any place. So Ethiopia is a country where it is one must get their container all stuffed up with whatever kind of stuff they think they would need in the country during their tenure here. For example, there are things available, there is stuff available. However, it is really expensive, like in few other African countries and even few South Asian countries as well, I would say. Other than that, there is there is not much to do in terms of outings or in terms of parks, and I will relate it to the US for that matter, because that's the place where I relocated from and my family relocated from. You have so many activities, so many parks around where one can go with their kids, which is not the case here. Although there are a few malls and stuff, but still, like when we talk like for outings and stuff, it is little limited. So one should be prepared on what they would be facing or they would be dealing with when they are moving to Ethiopia. And other things, it depends where you are moving from. That makes a big change as well.
Oh yes, that absolutely. Actually, it's quite interesting that you should mention Ethiopia. I was at a newcomer event when we first moved to the Philippines, and the lady, I said one of the things I missed was the shopping, and she came behind me and she said, "I go to the shops here in Manila and I stare at how many things there are in the shop." So yes, you're absolutely right. It's the difference between it's where you come from and where you're going to. So if you mention there are no parks and no activities, then what do families do?
So majorly families, they kind of make their own social groups. They meet, other families. On the weekends, it's more about taking kids to the birthday parties. It's more about like one of the schools, like which is International Community School. It is the one where there is a big playground, and there is, they have a track. They have basketball court and stuff. So families, they do spend good amount of time in the school itself. Other than that, there is like on 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 like 2-3 hours drive, at a distance of 2-3 hours, I don't remember in miles though, there is a nice place called Debrazet, and that is kind of a weekend getaway as well for families. They have nice resorts. There is kayaking, but then it is good for maybe like 3 to 4 times. That's it. And I would say, hmm, yeah, I'm still thinking, actually, like what I use, what I have been doing for the last 3 years here. So that's pretty much it. I would say it's, interacting with your friends, and taking kids for play dates, etc., and shopping and stuff.
Would you be able to have a house with garden?
Yes, that is possible, and there are houses in which there are big gardens, I would say. Yeah.
So presumably, if you wanted to, you could turn your garden into a sort of playground and have a few friends.
Yes, definitely that's an option, and people do it. But again, the thing is, how much will you do the same kind of activities repeated? Although everybody does it, that is one kind of a weekend activity, I would say. But still, like all being said, there are limited activities which one can engage themselves in with the families.
So, if that's the case, what would you say makes Addis great then? For because you've been there 3 years and you like it. So, what is it that really makes a difference for you?
It's the weather. It stays the same for the entire year, more or less, with some variability in temperature. Then it has very good sunshine, which I was kind of, I would say, deprived of when I was in DC, like at least in the winter months, which is not the case here. And then, yeah, it is the experience, the overall experience, I would say, one does get exposed to when you are in a different country. And Ethiopia has a great heritage and great history for that matter. There is like local traveling as well that one can do if somebody is, really interested in history and in understanding a country. It has a great history. It has, great historical buildings, I would say. And then the country people also call themselves that they are the kind of starter of civilization, sort of thing. That civilization first came to Ethiopia, sort of thing. So yeah, that way I would say it's really nice, and the people are really very friendly and nice.
So what advice then would you give with relation to housing?
So in terms of housing, I would say it depends on every family's needs. What I've seen in my time here, families with kids, they preferably find a house closer to the school. And the families without kids, they prefer to live close to the World Bank so that the commute to office is easier and etc. In terms of housing, there are two main areas where families prefer to live. One is Old Airport, and other one is Bole area. So the World Bank office, it is in Bole area, and families without kids generally, they prefer to live there, and families with kids, because most of them, they put their kids in international community school, which is an Old Airport. They prefer to live in the Old Airport area.
I see. And so are you saying that most of the families tend to go into into houses rather than high rise as well? Is that true or not?
So if you're going more towards, if you want to live in downtown, then it is more of high rise. I won't say rather high rise. It's like more or less 4 or 5 story buildings here. So it's more of apartment culture in downtown area, in Bole area, and it is more of house culture in Old Airport area. And when I say this, then again, it totally makes sense, because in the downtown area, it is more about, couples or single people without kids, etc., who does not even need that much space as compared to people with kids, because as I told, there are limited activities we can engage ourselves in the city. In that case, having some kind of garden and then some place for kids to kind of play around is needed.
Okay. So it's the traffic then, by deduction, I assume, when you were saying that people live near the office or near the school, depending on whether they have children or not. Is the traffic in Addis very, very bad then?
Traffic in Addis, in a way, you can say that. For example, from Old Airport to Bank Office building, roughly in terms of kilometers, it is 5 kilometers, not more. In some of the countries, it's kind, maybe 20 minutes, I would say. But here, with traffic and in rush hour of morning and evening, it can take anywhere from 50 minutes to 1 hour, or even more rough, depending on what day it is, or what kind of situation is in the city. Considering Addis is a capital city, if some dignitary or some VIP person is visiting, if the roads are blocked or blah blah blah, in that case, of course, it might take long. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Sheetal. I think Yvonne is on mute, so.
Yes, I'm on mute, but we can hear you. Yeah.
Yes, so I was saying, like, traffic is yes, like in rush hours, I would say they're back to back, bumper to bumper, the cars. It's time for for you to kind of move even a little bit in 10 minutes sort of thing.
Have some
And
questions. Sorry,
yeah.
go on.
And that's the main thing. If somebody with kids is living in Bole area close to bank, and then if they want to drop their kids to, ICS, International Community School, most of the time they find themselves just on the road, like morning dropping their kids in school around 7:30 or 8ish, then going back to work, and then again picking up the kids, in the rush hour. So from morning until evening, more or less, they are out. Rather than if you are in old airport area closer to school, in that case, kids can be home in maybe 10 or maximum 15 minutes.
So, Shital, you keep mentioning International Community School. How that obviously is the school of choice, the way I understand things. But are there other alternatives for if, say, a family doesn't want to go there, or if you speak French and you want to continue your French education, or German? Are there alternatives?
Yes, there is a French school, there is a British school, there is a Greek school, and a German school as well, for that matter. However, and families, yes, they do put their kids. I know other World Bank families who do enroll their kids in French and German school. But mostly, most other families I know from the bank, they put their kids in international community school. One thing being, it's the biggest school in the country, and then the education system is based on American education system. So if somebody wants to kind of, have their kids continue in international school system, then that's the choice, I would say. There is not much that kids have to undergo when they are doing the transition. It's kind of, same kind of teachers, same kind of PYP pattern in terms of education and all that stuff. And it has the biggest, the largest area in terms of the area for that matter. And then activities as well. Like when we talk about the French, British, and other school systems, comparatively, like they have less activities to do, even for the parents, I would say. Sorry to mention that, but yeah, like international community school even provides some kind of support system for parents, the way WBFN does. So they even help parents transition in the new system rather than just kids.
So, okay. So I have some questions, Shital, coming in the chat box. So I'll read them out to you and then you can answer them. So I have two questions. The first one is in terms of safety, what has been your experience? And the second one is we love Ethiopian food. Do you get the opportunity to have the cuisine and others at restaurants?
Okay, so if I repeat, one is about Ethiopian food cuisine. If I get
The other
chance
one,
to
safety.
yeah, okay. So I would say in terms of safety, in my time here, I never felt unsafe. It is quite safe. The country is quite fine that way. And even when you are out and about walking on your own, I never faced any issues. Although my husband faced it 3 times, like somebody tried to pickpocket him. Other than that, yeah, I know people who kind of lose some of their stuff like bags or phones, etc. But that is pretty much it. There are no violent crimes in the city or in the country as such until now. Government situation is, I would say, little volatile in the country because of various ethnic issues. There are various ethnicities, and the majority one, they keep on kind of bringing something or the other all the time. But despite of everything, government is quite capable of having everything under control. So yeah, safety wise, I would say it's been pretty fine. No violent crime as such, the way we see in Kenya or South Africa. Any questions on that, or I can move on the Ethiopian food?
Move on to Ethiopian food, please.
Okay, Ethiopian food is really a nice cuisine. I like it, and I will say it is like Indian dosa. If any of you have tried Indian dosa, I compare it with that, like injera and shiro. Although, like I'm vegetarian, so more or less I just eat injera and shiro whenever I do. There was a time when I went to like in 2009 or 10, I would say, one of the best restaurants in DC, in Georgetown, Ethiopian restaurant. I tried injera there. I didn't like it at all. But since I moved here, now I crave for injera, and I've also purchased my own like injera baking device, which I plan to take with me wherever I'll move next. Like my family moves next, and Ethiopian cuisine is really, really very tasty, and there are so many local restaurants. Who cater to your needs of Ethiopian food, and also like their folk dances they do show in the restaurants. Like there is a time when there is a folk dance you can eat, you can enjoy dancing, and yeah.
That sounds lovely. But how is that affected now with COVID?
With COVID, frankly, there is no COVID in Ethiopia. Uh, Government was in state of emergency from March until now, and recently they did uplift it. Now everything is normal, and anyway, they were never in full lockdown. It was always a partial lockdown. So whatever they did was kind of, they did. What do you call it, in local transport, kind of they were working on 50% capacity, etc. So such kind of measures, like theaters were closed, etc., etc., which is not the case now. So when I would say restaurants, yes, business did go down, I would not say that, but still the impact on restaurant business or on the food business is not that big, and especially on the local restaurants, because it is frequently used by or visited by the locals here. So when we talk about the Ethiopian food or the Ethiopian cuisine restaurants, it's not much the impact. But when we talk about the international restaurants, I would see some impact, and especially the new restaurants which opened up. They are quite, they have less customers at the moment.
So
And
the government hasn't mandated social distancing or dining in, or or dining outside only, or anything like that. Then, so it's purely consumer choice.
yes, they did not mandate much about the dining side of this, but of course about the masks and stuff. However, when you go outside, you will see everything is more or less the same. It is continuing in the same way, which was pre-corona times, I would say. People, you will see people with masks and stuff, but still like social distancing and stuff, it is not much followed here. And that too, like Ethiopian people are very kind of social people, I would say, so you will see everybody together with their friends or group, etc. Yeah.
So thank you. I have more questions for you, Shital, coming in. The next two is, how easy or difficult is it to hire domestic help? And the other question I have is, are the roads outside Addis, how are the roads outside Addis for out-of-town trips? There are many more questions, but we'll go two at a time.
Of course, I'm happy to reply. And I'm also wondering if Sumit is here, maybe he can, provide some insight from the couple's perspective, sort of thing, because their kids are grown up, and it's just two of them who were here. So anyway, in terms of domestic help, I would say it's not at all difficult. It is very easy to hire, and one can look internally in their own groups, sort of like there is WhatsApp group, there is a Telegram group, and each school also has their groups, Facebook groups, etc. And domestic helps, generally they are passed on from one family to another, like family going out to the family coming in inside the country, sort of thing. The only challenge with them, I would say, is kind of little bit of language. Although there are some who have like perfect language skills, they know how to deal with the expat community or otherwise also, and they know how their work. But majorly it's like Amharic is first language here, and that is little bit of challenge, I would say, like when you give instructions and stuff. But if you do your research well, like which is the family going out and then what kind of help they had, and if you do like your own research sort of thing on those groups, I would say it's perfectly fine. It would not be a problem at all. And what I have seen, although I don't do it, but what I have seen, people have a nanny, and then they'll have a cook, and then they will have a cleaner. So, like personally for me, I find it's a little more difficult to handle more people. But yeah, that is kind of a trend that one goes with, and then also it depends on kids' age. If kids are little, then you need more help, and you need more kind of any sort of work as well. But domestic help hiring is, I would not say it is problematic.
So, on the subject of domestic help, do they live in the house or do they come in to work and, go home on a daily basis?
There are both options available. This all is what you check prior to hiring them. Although depending on the house location, generally what I've seen in the homes, there is always these separate kind of facilities which the homeowner provides or they have built for the domestic help to live in. So if somebody wants, then definitely they can ask the domestic help to live in the house as well. And yeah, that is quite possible. For me also, my help is live in. And especially during these times, more and more people, they are doing it. They are asking their domestic helps to live in the house. And sometimes the domestic help works as a cook as well. So it's all like depending on one's needs and one's research. Yeah.
What's the average cost of domestic help?
I would not want to say that. So average cost is, when you say in terms of BUR, it is 6,000 a month. And when you say in USD, I would want to say $300 a month. But when it is the live-in, in that case, one has to provide, all the boarding, lodging sort of support as well, which includes their groceries, etc., etc. But when they are live out, in that case, you just pay the salary. Other than that, as I mentioned, it is a 13-month country. So generally, you have to pay them 13-month salary, meaning we will pay like 12 months plus the 13-month. It is divided in terms of bonus, like Christmas bonus, Easter bonus, and one also major festival sort of thing. So and other than that, it is expected that the domestic help will get all the like Saturday, Sunday holiday, or if not Saturday, Sunday, then at least Sunday, and also all the major holidays which are there in the country. And most of the families, when they hire domestic help, they do it with a contract. They have a contract with them for 6 months, 1 year, whatsoever, and that's the way you work it out.
Oh, thank you. That's very comprehensive. And what about the roads outside of Addis? How good are they for out-of-town trips?
So roads outside Addis, I would say, when I mentioned about this particular place, Debrozet, for there, it is a very good road, new built, and just like any developed country road, I would say. However, if you want to go further than that, maybe 4 hours or something, then it is little difficult. It is patchy. Although I have been only like twice or on a longer trip, I would say. So it's like paved and unpaved in between. One should be ready for that kind of roads. Like you will not get a paved road everywhere when you go outside of Addis. Even in Addis, I would say there are areas and even there are back roads where it's not paved. And during rainy season, it's kind of problematic.
Okay. Then I have two more questions here. Quite a lot, actually. Is
Sure.
Ethiopian society conservative, or do we see a mix of cultures? And another question is, how are the medical facilities?
So when you say conservative, would you be able to elaborate a little bit on this?
I can't because the question it says, is Ethiopian society conservative, or do we see a mix of cultures?
So there is a
Actually,
lot of.
Sheetal, I had put down that question, so let
Okay,
me
so please, if you can
elaborate.
elaborate. Yeah.
I mean, I was simply curious about, in terms of dress code and so on. Like in India, we see quite a mix, right? All kinds of the whole spectrum of from very conservative to very modern. Is it
Yeah.
the same in Ethiopia?
Thanks, Padmani, for that. So I would say in Ethiopia, it is not as much as India, I would say, but still, in terms of East Africa, in terms of an African country, they are really very, very open and advanced, I would say. That they are not very conservative. I don't know how to in fact answer this. Like in India, we generally don't see, different genders talking to each other until they know each other, sort of thing. But here it's very common. There is not much difference when we talk about gender. But that's my idea. Maybe Mimi here can mention more on that, stating she comes from this country. But if I compare it with Djibouti, I would say, because Djibouti is a Muslim country, they are really very conservative. Like a woman has to be in burqa and all that stuff all the time. Women will not go out much. But I did not see that scenario in Ethiopia at all. For example, if you go to a shop, like on most of the shops, the shopkeepers are the women. At the toll area, it's a women you will find sitting on the toll side. So all those are the differences I would say I have seen. And in terms of dressing up as well, it is fine if somebody is wearing a short skirt as well, although there are not many who do. But still, like, people don't kind of give an awkward look or an odd kind of look to such a scenario or to such a kind of scene, I would say. So in my idea, it's not very open, I would say, as we see in some other countries, maybe Europe or North America for that matter. But in terms of Africa, it is not even conservative.
So Mimi, you're the lady from Ethiopia. So what would you say? Is Ethiopian society conservative?
No, I wouldn't say that they are or we are conservative. Because we're like, I would say we're open. In terms of dressing, it's like, as Sheetal said, it's like European or Americans. Most people wear like jeans and tops and stuff. We wear our cultural dresses, like somewhere like in a church or in a holidays day. But in the road, you don't see that much. You see people with jeans and I wouldn't say they are or we are conservative. Right, Sheetal?
I plan to get one of those dresses, Mimi. Maybe you should tell me where should I go to, Shiromeda or so some other place where like a nice shop of your choice.
Of course, I will, Sheetal. I'll have also my sisters or someone to help you in that.
Thank you.
So a question for both Mimi and Sheetal. What is the how do Ethiopians feel about LGBT couples. And if you were an LGBT couple, could you relocate to Addis?
Okay, I would take a lead on that. Maybe you can, or maybe you can mention before, and then I'll provide my inputs. Either way is fine.
Yeah, Mimi, you
Yeah.
go first.
Yeah, for me, it's like I left Ethiopia for like when I was, I wouldn't say when I was young, but long time, almost 30 years. And at that time, I'm sure it was very, people were not open on these issues. But now maybe it's a little different. And Shital might answer this for this moment, but for the in all times, this LGBT was not really support in Ethiopia, and even now in families and cultures, I don't think it is very supported.
Thanks, Mimi, for mentioning that, and I would like to compliment what she said. So from my side of view, I would say, yeah, it that way it is definitely a conservative society. That way it's very like God-fearing society where such kind of relationships, at least in theory, does not exist. Even like kind of when you say men to men sort of relationships, they don't agree to it, and they don't even accept it. From one of my personal professional example, I would say while working on HIV project, I took two of the government officials to Kenya, to Nairobi, and to just kind of show them how exactly Kenya is dealing with the HIV issue, and Kenya is dealing with their sex work issues, etc., etc. And the government counterpart from here, and then she is on kind of a director level in one of the organizations. She was literally shocked when she saw like men-to-men relationships kind of easily being acceptable, at least in a particular community in Kenya, and how those people like Kenyans were open about it, and how easily they were speaking about it. That she was literally in a shock for at least 1 or 2 days, and time and again she was like, no, Sheetal, these things, they don't exist in Ethiopia. No, not at all. These things are kindly, like these things are not at all acceptable also, and rather than being an acceptance issue, she was just not ready to accept that it is there in Ethiopia. And then she mentioned that personally, she will look into it at her end, at government level, if something like this is happening or not. However, later she came back to me saying that, yes, it is there, but it's kind of hush thing. So when we talk about such kind of relationships, then it is a very conservative society. Yeah. Over.
Thank you. And so, talking about that, there are two more questions in the chat box, but since you talked about work, I would like to talk about work before going back to the questions in the chat box, just to change the rhythm of the discussion a little bit. The question is regarding work. As you know, work is becoming increasingly important to our spouses. Would you be able to work in Addis if you relocated there with the bank? Is it easy to get a work permit?
Okay, thanks for that. Before that, is it okay if I deal with the medical question, because
Go
earlier
ahead, sure. Go ahead.
all right. So in terms of medical care, I would say mainly there are only two clinics I know of. One is closer to Old Airport, one is closer to Bole area, and that is the place where most of the people they go, like who I know. And medical facilities are not that great, frankly. With my case scenario, Sorry if I'm, kind of quoting a lot of, my own situations, but when I wanted to get myself tested for my symptoms, it took me kind of around 1 day to figure out, how to get it done. What are the reasons they will do it? What are the reasons they will not do? And it's a little difficult to find right gear. If there is any emergency sort of situation, then at least what I know, like World Bank office does evacuate people in emergency situation, like they evacuate staff and families either to Kenya or to South Africa. And one incident like this happened in, my time here, I would say. So for small things, for physician needs and all, it is fine. But if there is any complication and stuff, then there is less healthcare services available in the country.
Can I just say something, Yvonne, for a second?
Sure.
I wanted to
Right.
tell Sheetal that please don't apologize for sharing your experiences, because that's what we are here to listen to. We love the personal experiences that you're sharing.
Thank you.
Yes, go ahead, Chital, with the employment now.
Yeah. So medical I have covered. If there are no more questions, I can move on to onto the work situation. So for the work situation,
Something on medical before you
Sure.
go on. When we lived there, I don't know if it's still the case. There was a wonderful clinic in the UNECA compound that was available to all UN and World Bank staff and families. And we used to go there as the first stop, and it was really very good. Is it? I don't know if it's still operational.
So am I talking to Beverly?
Yes, sorry, Shita. Yeah.
No, that's fine. That's fine. Hi, Beverly. So the thing is that clinic is still there. It is operational, and it's somehow I did not go there personally ever. For my family, it is Swiss clinic and Nordic. I don't know like how long ago you were here and if these two existed then or not.
Yes,
But
yeah. We left in 2016.
So not long ago. Okay.
Yeah.
So Swiss clinic is closer to old airports, so generally for all, and then especially they have a pediatrician, which is not the case in the other clinic, and which is little difficult to find here. So Swiss clinic and Nordic, they are the kind of go-to places. And ECA, yes, it has a clinic. However, I did not visit there. I just went for my COVID-19 testing recently, but for that also, it took me time.
Okay.
So yeah. And other than that, yeah, I would say even like when we are talking about medical, so in Ethiopia, we don't get like all the medical facilities under one roof. For example, if one has to get the X-ray done, then they will have to go to one lab. If they have to go, get a malaria test for that matter, then there is another lab. So that again is kind of little bit challenging. Like you are going to a doctor for your checkup, and then if the doctor recommends or the doctor prescribes for you to get the testing done, then you have to go to one or two other stops, sort of thing. Over.
Okay.
So now I can move to work situation.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so in terms of work, I would say I got lucky, knock on the wood, but it's rather not easy. First of all, like Ethiopian government, they have kind of their own quota sort of thing, that only Ethiopians can work in the organizations. So if somebody is moving here with their spouses, with their World Bank staff, like with their World Bank spouses, in that case, their best choices, I would say, is finding something at the UN, or finding something at the bank itself, or other like multilaterals, because they understand the situation a little bit better. But if somebody wants to work for an Ethiopian firm or other private firms as well, for that matter, like Heineken or Coke, etc., then it is rather difficult because the government has their own kind of slabs that only at this position an expat can work in a country, and which is really like of very, very high sort of like director level or CEO, etc., etc. And getting a work permit, like so with the residency card, the World Bank's protocol, they say that with the resident card, a spouse is allowed to work. But when you take that card to the particular company who wants to hire you, they don't kind of accept it as a work permit sort of thing, the way it happens in the States, for that matter. Like when we have the work permit, we have the work permit, and irrespective of what kind of organization you are looking to work for, they will accept it as a validity, which is not the case in Ethiopia. So again, going to my personal example, even when I found work at the UN, for example, I found it in February, but until June, these two organizations like UN and World Bank, they were kind of exchanging dialogue, and they were figuring out if I'm allowed to work or not for the UN on this particular residency card. And finally, I had to go out of the country. I had to get my work visa stamped and then re-enter.
How long did that take you?
How long for what?
To get the work permit? You said that UN and WB were talking for a long time about whether your residence card would be accepted.
3 months. So I got the job offer in February, but I did not start until mid-June.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And if you were giving advice,
I can't hear you, Yvonne.
you said that you had to leave the country and go back in again. So if a spouse knows that he or she wants to work, is there anything they can do before they leave?
Can you elaborate a little bit? In what sense?
Meaning, say, if I know I'm going to Addis, right?
Yeah.
And I know I want to work. So is there anything that I can do, say, to help myself so that I wouldn't have to go into the country and then leave again? As you mentioned, you had to go out again to get the work permit stamp.
So it depends. So there are two things here. I think I should talk about. One is to get a job, and second one is for a work permit. So what I know is from my situation on work permit, I know another spouse, again a World Bank staff spouse. She got a job in the UN on her residence ID. She did not have to go out. So it seems like, at least to me, that it depends on different UN organizations as well, on what kind of UN organization you are dealing with, sort of thing. Maybe my organization did not allow me to work on that residency permit here, and I had to travel, whereas her agency did allow her to work on the residency permit. But on your question on what a spouse can do before, so maybe for the work permit, I highly doubt something can be done unless you are in the country. But in terms of job search, definitely, the spouse can start networking, can start looking on the UN jobs, which is a global website, and then look, what is available in Ethiopia. In terms of jobs, I would say there are many jobs for sure, and there is a lot of skill set requirement in the country which is not locally available. So so finding a job, I would say, is easier than starting working there because of the work permit issue. And then also, like, English speaking skills again is in demand. It's not because that there are less English speakers here, but yeah, Amharic is the national language, and more people, they speak Amharic, and still, like, like local people, they are coming to the level of international English skills. So if somebody has the right, right mix of their the previous profiles, their professional profile, and English, etc., then finding a job is not easy. Networking is all, I would say, from my perspective. One should start, doing before, like as and when they decide that, yeah, this is their next posting.
So just to summarize, so you are saying very that the best employers would be the UN or WB, and to try to secure that just before you arrive even. And I hear the second thing, that it's a bit inconsistent, meaning how it's luck how the agency will treat your ID. Some people will say yes, it's fine, and some people will say, like in your case, no, you have to go out and you come back in with a work permit. Is that correct?
Totally. And I would also want to mention multilaterals, like, for example, European Union is there, ZIZ is there, then, there are these French organizations as well who want French speakers. There are German organizations, like I mentioned, GIZ. So these are only a few of the ones, those I know of, I would say. And there are many, donor organizations as well, like Swedish, Danish, and good part is Addis is the political as well as commercial capital. So everyone is located here. All of the, these offices, organizations, they are located in Addis. And Addis is not even a big city for that matter. So it's easy to reach them.
Good. That is relative good news, given that there are only 35 countries that have a free flow of for accompanying spouses with no restrictions, and most of them are in Western Europe. So it's good to know that in Africa, Addis is, at least there are job opportunities. So if I can go back,
if I can mention, Ivan,
go ahead.
Yeah. So in that matter, I would say, like, for that matter, in East Africa, Addis is Ethiopia is very strategically located. Also, African Union is here. So in terms of job availabilities, or different agencies and offices, yeah, I named UN and World Bank to be main, because those are kind of little easily accessible, or not even accessible. Yeah, easily accessible, I would say. Like if a World Bank staff is working here, then their spouse can get access to UN. And for the UN as well, there are 28 agencies, which is rather rare for any country, I would say. Like, so 28 UN agencies, they are operating here, like UNDP, UNOPS, WFP, UNICEF, etc. So if somebody is doing their research well, then definitely I would say, like, they will land in some good job for sure in Ethiopia.
That is really good news. So very quickly, because we have two more questions, and here, and time is running out. Prices notwithstanding, are these common household groceries, which one cannot get in Ethiopia compared to the US? And Beverly wants to know, do you use the monorail?
Monorail. I have no idea. Sorry.
And the other question is about the groceries. What can you not get in Ethiopia? So if we are moving from DC, what is the what do you must put in your shipment? Actually, that was critical for us when we moved to Manila,
Yeah, so that way I got lucky because my husband's predecessor, right? Yeah, when they were moving out, my husband came here on pre-assignment mission, and his wife told him, even bring toilet papers. So more than that I cannot mention, and then literally that's what I did, and still we have quite decent amount of those left here. So it's not like the toilet rolls or kitchen towel and all that, it's not available. Rather, the quality is not good. and then the prices are really expensive. So for that matter, I would say Addis is really an expensive city to live in. If you want, like here, government is not yet open, economy is not yet open. So the tax on imported items, it is 100% plus the duties. So you can you can do your math, like if we are buying it for $5, for example, in the US, and if the same thing is imported here, we'll be paying $15 to $20 anywhere. And if somebody can do it, they would rather not want to pay if they can work without it, sort of thing. So yeah, like whatever is even available in terms of imported items, I would say it is very expensive, that you would not want to pay for. And then in terms of housing prices as well, Addis is quite pricey. Like for example, one villa kind of house you will get here anywhere from $4,600 to maybe $7,000.
That's expensive. Thank you for giving the the news on the ground. So just to look back in the interest of time, this is really the real value of our Thursday travels, what you just heard from Shita. You will not read in a guidebook that you need to bring your toilet paper. Yes.
One last thing, if I can mention, and also like living in such a country, one goes into hoarding mentality as well. So when I say like things are available, and even if we are buying it, for example, soup or tomato sauce. So whenever it is available in the grocery store, it is very good. Like you take your consumption of 2 or 3 months, you purchase it in bulk rather than thinking that, oh yeah, it's available in decent quantity, I will make a next trip and take it. You never know, next time it won't be available there. So it's such kind of situation. And now and generally for everyone, the situation is like for the World Bank families, like if somebody is going out or if they are traveling, then they kind of get stuff with them. Going back to your question, when you mentioned like what I like about Ethiopia, so the main thing is it is very well connected with the outside world. So Ethiopian Airlines has 2 or 3 connections to almost everywhere in the world globally. So it's very easy to travel. Even on the weekends, a person can travel. For short spring, for break, you can go outside the country, etc. Over.
Thank you. So we have nearly come to an end. We will overshoot because I would like Mimi to sort of, and Beverly, to very quickly give some tips. If you had what, Mimi, would you like to leave with our audience about Ethiopia that will help them? And Beverly, from your experience, just one most helpful tip, and then I'll hand over to Mimi to wrap up our session. So Mimi.
Yes, if I say one thing, I would say the traffic. As Shital said, the traffic is more like the rush hours. If you avoid the rush hours, roads are more open. But of course, usually schools and office hours will be in a rush hour. But if you don't live close by, give your time for the traffic. But if possible, it's better to avoid the rush hour.
Thank you. And Beverly, you have lived there. So what's your what will your hot tip be for anybody who is moving to Addis?
I'm going to slip in 2 or 3. The hottest would be, I think, in Addis, more than anywhere else we've lived. If you can make a local friend, that's gold, because you will unearth so much about the place. And I was lucky that I was able to do that. Try the jazz clubs. There are amazing jazz clubs. The music is wonderful. And when we were there, the Alliance Française had a very, very active cultural program with films and music and all sorts of things. So maybe check out if that is still going on. and drink the macchiato. Every street corner has a cafe with wonderful macchiato and tiramisu. So that's a hot tip from me.
Of course, the coffee.
I missed it.
See a coffee ceremony if you can. We were lucky we had a person who did it at home for us whenever we had a party. Coffee ceremony is wonderful to be experienced in any of those go to those cultural restaurants like Habesha, and they do the dancing and the coffee ceremony and everything. And go to Tomoko, which is right next to the World Bank, to buy wonderful coffee beans and roasted coffee. So those are a few tips. And get up to Entoto at the weekend if you haven't already done it, for an amazing view over the city.
And I
Totally
would
missed
say-
on coffee. One of my friends, she does coffee ceremony at her home every Saturday now in the Corona times.
Wonderful.
And I would also add, like before COVID time, there were like big like 5-star or 4 stars hotels with the swimming pools and stuff
Yes.
to spend some weekends.
And the lovely it's hot water that comes from the hot springs.
Yeah,
So-
yeah.
Oh, wonderful hot spring.
Yeah.
Yeah, there
that's
are nice
Yeah.
spas and stuff you can use in the hotel.
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, and go and see Lucy if you haven't seen Lucy already. In the museum.
That I have not.
The original, I mean, the original human being and they've got a good display, a new display, in the museum for that. And of course, Haile Selassie's palace.
So thank you very, 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 very much for all your inputs. It sounds great fun. And as always, the Thursday Travels always leaves me ready to move to wherever country we've talked about. And today, I'm ready to go to Addis. So thank you, Shita, especially as there's so many work opportunities that attracts me. So thank you, Shita. And I'll hand over to you, Pamini, to wrap up.
Thank you, Yvonne, and thank you, Sheetal. I've been enjoying all the country visits, but I must say I really enjoyed today's a lot. And you really shared a great wealth of information with us, and you can see the kind of questions you got. People got more and more engaged as time went on. And so, and I do hope you feel better soon, and I do hope it's not COVID. And even if it is, I'm sure you'll do well. And thanks, Beverly and Mimi, for sharing your experience and whatever you know about Ethiopia. And like Yvonne said, really, I feel as if, I should travel now and I should go to some of these exotic places. So, having said all that, thanks everybody for joining us today. And we hope to see you the next time when we have one of our country travels. Thank you.
Yes, next week, do join us. We will be going to Mexico. So somewhere nearer home. And thank you so much again.
And please, please keep in mind that because of the time zone of Mexico, we will do it an hour later next week, okay? So for DC time, for instance, it will be 9:15 a.m. Okay, so 1 hour later. Thank you all. Thank you, Shital. Stay safe, okay?
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Catherine.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.